Welcome to the Friday at 4 podcast series with your host Charles Luttrell and co-host Steve Kent.
Good afternoon, Steve. Welcome back to the Q.A.C. Team Friday at 4 podcast series, episode 28.
Wow. Well, first of all, welcome, Chuck. Good to be here. But
Yes,
28 episodes?
this is our 28th episode, man.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Well, we got to be doing something right if we're still here. So, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think I like the fact that we have a topic every week and it's just us coming up with what we feel like talking about. And, I'm getting feedback that people are liking our topics and they're really interested in what we're talking about, and have to say now the next step obviously is to get people to start, chiming into what they want to talk about or commenting on what we're talking about. But hey, we're here, we're on number
Yeah.
28 and we're going to keep going.
Well, I think it's partly the topic or topics, partly it's that it's just the two of us, which is two, and we say this all the time. It's just two guys, not sponsored yet. Um, with our views. And what you're going to get is the truth because it's our views uncensored.
Yeah,
And if we can help somebody, that's what we're here for. Just to give information, give people ideas, get them maybe down a different road, try something different, and hopefully they'll have some success. That's what we're here for.
yeah. Are we allowed to say it's sponsored by ourselves?
It's sponsored by ourselves.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Our
Friday at
party
4
of
is
two.
sponsored by Steve Kent and Charles Luttrell.
Party of two.
Party of two,
Party of
please.
two. We're good. Party of two.
Yeah. Yeah. So what we got today?
So I'm going to lead into it, but I'm going to work up to it. So this is going to be the long answer. But I promise to keep it somewhat shorter than 4 days. Okay.
Right.
Um, so way back when, um, somewhere, some inventor, I don't remember who it was, maybe it was Alexander Graham Bell, invented the telephone. And long before I was born, and yes, I'm older, but even long before I was born, they had this telephone that you would look down on, and it had the rotary dials. So you put your finger in, there was 10 holes, and you put your finger in and you turned it around and it dialed the number, and you picked up this really weird looking receiver to your face and you talked. And then as time went on, then you got the phone that hung up on the kitchen wall with the extension cord from the phone to the receiver that was, 85 feet long because you could stretch it halfway across your house, right?
Right.
And that was great. And there was no um, voicemail, there was no call forwarding. It was just you picked it up, you dialed, and you got to the person on the other end of the line if they picked it up. That was it. It was real simple technology. Then they started getting into um, the phones with all the gadgets, the smart, the voicemails and not emails, the voicemails and all that stuff. Then they started getting into the cell phones. Now, the first cell phone I remember was about this high, this wide, and it was like as big as a shoebox. And you put that onto your head, and you plugged it into the car, and everybody knew you had it because it was like a football field.
You can see that thing a mile away.
Oh, you could. And then they came out with the phones. So if you remember that there was the BlackBerry and there was the flip phone, and then you got the smartphones. And they started having all these different options. And one of the great sides about the smartphone was you could put in phone numbers, you could put in email addresses, you could put in a whole bunch of stuff. And it was great. And the smartphone allowed you to find somebody anytime, wherever they were, because you picked it up, you dialed, it went to them, and hopefully they pick it up. That was one of the greatest things that came along. However, the other side to that says it was one of the worst things that came along because now, for a number of reasons, number one is because they could pick up the phone, dial, and find you, they could find you anytime. So it's good that they could find you, but it's bad that they could find you because then that thing called privacy was gone. Personal
Gone.
time was gone. But we live with it. And people use it for work, people use it for pleasure, whatever they use it for. And that's where it was. And the phones continue to evolve and they add more and more features. So it's the basic voicemail, email. Oh, let's start with make a phone call. Then you have your voicemail, your email, your games, your social media. Um, God knows what even's on a phone because I'm not into that end of it, but there's all kinds of stuff. And it really started having computing power more than even your laptop has or your or computer has. But that's in this little phone. And because people are getting so dependent on the phone, they can't live without it. It sits next to them all day long. It's on during the night. It's on everywhere. So again, good news, bad news. But then earlier today, Chuck sends me a an article that he found, and some people are aware of this, some people are not. I'm not super heavily into it, but I read the article, and it's that Facebook is coming out with glasses that will do similar things that a phone does. So again, let's talk good news, bad news. The good news is you now have the glasses, so you're not putting a phone to your ear. So your hands are free. You know, they all talk about cancer with the phone up against your ear. I don't know if that's true or not. Um, and the glasses will do everything for you. Now, how it's done, I don't know all the technical stuff. But good news, bad news. The good news, again, your hands are free. You don't have the phone. The bad news is now they're taking away more and more of us using our brains. Because even with a regular smartphone, even with the numbers that are in memory, you have to click or tap or whatever you're doing to turn on the phone, find the number, push the button. You still have to listen, formulate a response, do all the things, type a text message, type an email, respond to an email, yet all the things you have to do. If you're getting into the glasses where you can potentially talk and say, call Chuck, send email to Chuck. It opens up and you talk and it types your text. We're taking more and more away of using our brains.
Yeah.
And I hate to use this term. I really hate to use this term, but they're continuing to dumb down people. They're taking away more and more. For years, when laptops came out, I fought against, and again, my opinion, I
Yeah.
fought against laptops in school, younger grades. Kids should be playing. Kids should be learning how to read and write with their own brain. But when you have a computer that will allow you to talk into it and it types what you want, it edits it, it does spell check, it does all kinds of stuff. Turn on the computer, call Chuck. Boom.
Yeah.
If you're starting out young, when do you ever start to use your brain? And the day that you don't have your computer or your phone or something else, you're totally lost.
Yeah.
Totally lost. Now, you could argue I'm old school. You could argue that, and I get it. But where do you start or continue to use the brain?
I can't wait if we're still alive for years in the future for studies to come out on how the brain is not developing properly because of the technology that
Mhm.
we're using, how we're
Yeah.
using technology, how these kids at 8 months old to a year old are sitting in a car seat in a car and their parents put a tablet in front of them and are watching all this stuff.
Right.
However, the flip side is, right, they're smarter, they're learning faster, they're
Hmm.
learning more. So yeah, like you said, right, there's good and there's bad, right? There's good that
Hmm.
they're learning things quicker, they're picking up things. But on the bad side, how is it functioning or damaging the human learning process, of what humans do?
Hmm.
Is this part of the human I'm a big believer in that we're going to evolve into something else
Hmm.
thousands of years from now. Is this the start of that
Yeah.
evolution of the human that's going to go away from what we're physically doing now, right? Just a thought, right? Just my
So,
thoughts,
oh yeah, yeah. So you
Yeah.
talk about that side of it. Let's talk about a different side of it, which is the social aspect.
Mhm.
When you are, and I'm talking you, I'm talking general statement. When you are so engrossed in that device, a computer, a phone, whatever it is, your interaction with other people doesn't develop the way it's supposed to. So and I know this for a fact, because even years ago when I was in corporate, and we're talking 15 years ago, which is not all that far, people would apply for a job online. Okay, fine. But when they said they have to come in for an interview, they never show up because they can't interact. Before computers really hit, come in and fill out the application. They couldn't write, they can't sign their name. They would put an X, and that was their signature.
Yeah.
So that whole thing is missing.
Mhm. So two things to that, right? That I've learned. I'm a big believer that this technology is a big problem to social anxiety, to what we're seeing with the younger generations who are afraid to talk to people, afraid to interact, right?
Mhm.
And on the flip side of that, when you mentioned about people not having to go in for an interview, I don't know if you know this or not. I don't know if we talked about this, but I did learn that AI is now involved in the application and hiring process. When
Hmm.
you apply for a job, AI scans every application and every
Wow.
applicant for keywords that they're looking for. And if you don't have those keywords, you're automatically rejected. And you get an email that says, sorry, we went with somebody else. Okay.
Wow.
And if anybody watching this that knows anything different or has more information on that, feel free to reach out to us because I would love to have a whole conversation
Mm.
on our Friday at Four podcast series to talk about that because that's a serious problem because that
Hmm.
means you're missing out on really good candidates, right?
Correct.
Because of this whole social uh, world that we're in right now, this whole social revolution that we're going through right now.
Well, you could really look at that in two different ways. One way says, yes, AI is scanning all resumes looking for keywords. But the other side of that says, before you submit the resume, do your research. Find out about the company, find out what keywords they're looking for. So I agree with you, AI is doing more, but now the person has to do their piece. But can the person do their piece if they're so reliant on the computer? Because the computer doesn't know by itself what the keywords are.
Right.
You have to do it yourself. As of now, anyway, you have to do it yourself. Who knows what's going to be tomorrow? But as of now, you have to do it yourself. And if you don't know how, can't, not sure, and you can't interact with people, how do you ever find out what should be there? So you
Yeah.
could be doing it to yourself. AI will certainly help, but you could be doing it to yourself too and not realizing it.
Right. And let's go back to the example of the glasses for Facebook, right? So
Mhm.
you got these glasses, and when you no longer have a cell phone, right? It's the AI, it's got cameras all around you and it's
Mhm.
scanning you and your lifestyle. What if you don't even need to physically create a resume or apply for a job? It does it through the glasses because it sees your lifestyle. And it's like, oh, this would be the perfect fit for you. We found 13 jobs for you. You want to apply for these jobs. Boom. It's like so instant. You're doing nothing to even start the process of finding a job, you
Right.
know? So it's
Well,
kind of weird on one side, but it's kind of neat on the other, you know?
yeah, yeah. Well, we all know, or at least we believe, that for years, major companies are scanning social media looking for everything about you.
Yeah.
And it and I shouldn't say it starts, but one of the things that comes out is as people are growing up, they're posting all over Facebook, all over well, more Facebook and X and TikTok and all those that I'm not familiar with.
Instagram.
And
Yeah.
thank you. Make me worse. Thank you. Thank you, Chuck. Okay. Um, but
Sorry.
what they're doing is they're creating a profile for you on, not for you, but on you. And if you post politically, if you post anything sexual, if you post anything religion, if you post pictures that are not appropriate, they will build that profile. And if you apply for a job, forget it. You won't even know why, but you'll never have an opportunity. So
Yeah.
to your point, they're building that profile. So
Yeah.
everything, and I've heard way back when a comment, um, once it goes on the internet, it's there forever. You
Yeah. I
can't
taught
get
my
rid of it.
kids that. Yeah. I taught my kids that when they were very young, when they first got their
Mhm.
first cell phone, which really started with iPods, and I gave them, they got into the cell phones because I trusted them, I raised them well.
Mm.
And that's a very valid point you bring up is that, they're scanning you and they're profiling you off of everything you put on the internet, you
Yep.
know.
Yep.
And so now add to that, right? You got this AI that's scanning,
Mm.
looking for what they want,
Right.
and you have nothing that's in common with what this company is looking for. So you're never going to get a job with them because one, it found keywords that it didn't want that
Mm.
rejected you, but also
Right.
found no keywords that they wanted. So now you're double rejected because
Right.
we're looking for this. You had this. That's a big oopsie.
And once you're on that no hire list, you have to believe, again, my opinion, you have to believe that companies talk to companies. It's not each company is on their own. Companies talk to companies. I believe you're put into that don't hire pool.
Yeah. And I think you and I both know the legal thing about that is they're only allowed to say, would you hire so and so? Yes or no. That is as far as it's allowed to go. But you and I
Yes.
both know AI is doing way more than we think it's doing when it's scanning for your information.
Yeah, absolutely. But
Yeah.
even before AI, if you were applying for a job to company X,
Yeah.
company X would call your former employer and they would say, Chuck just applied for a job. Um, and I think you're allowed to ask, would you rehire?
Would you hire them? Right. Would you rehire them?
Would you hire them again?
Yep. Yes or no?
All all the answer that has to come back from the other side is silence.
Hmm.
They don't have to answer it.
They didn't have to answer.
They
Yeah.
don't have to answer it. Would you
Because
hire
that's a
yes or
given
no?
fact.
Silence is an implied no.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Good point.
you're done.
Yeah. Good point.
You're done.
Good point.
You don't need salary. You don't need would you rehire or would you hire? Silence, you're gone. That's
Yeah.
simple. Yeah. You're within the law. You ask the question you're allowed to ask. And based on a no response is the response.
Yeah. I never thought of that. That's that's brilliant. I never
Yeah.
thought of it.
I was in that world for a long time. I was
Yeah.
senior in a number of companies and I did a lot of hiring and we asked those questions. And
Yeah.
a silence response is a no response. It is a no, not a no response, but a no. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So again, right, as you talked about earlier, right, the good, the bad, the ugly of social media, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's a real world out there and it's a harsh world. And It
Mhm.
doesn't get easier when you start involving, all right, so you're only on TikTok, okay, but there's 10 other platforms that are so vulnerable to this. If you're on every one, it can get ugly.
And I've even, now I have not personally witnessed this, but I know people a couple of years ago when they applied for a job, the job asked them for their social media links, LinkedIn, Facebook. Um, Back then it was Twitter, and whatever else was out there at the time. Again, I'm not heavily into that stuff. They asked for the links because they did a search on you. And if you didn't give them the links, gone. Take your resume, go to the shredding machine. Yeah, that's what they
Yeah,
did. And you had no choice. So that's where we go back to what we talked about a few minutes ago. Starting when you're young, be very, very careful what you put
yeah,
out there because it
yeah.
will come back to haunt you later. And again, once it's there forever.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, again, I don't want to sound like Debbie Downer and stuff. What I'm trying to get across to people is just be smart. Just be
Yeah.
smart. What you do outside of social media, go for it. Do whatever you want to do. I don't care. I'm just suggesting on social media where it's so public and with AI and other things, just be careful. That's all I'm asking. Just be careful for yourself.
Yeah. And the whole other side of that too is right when you talk about, who cares beyond social media, what you do what you want. But then you got 30,000 cameras out in public
Right,
who are on you as
right,
well that who
right,
you don't know who's recording you and you don't know what's recording you.
right,
And
right,
before you know it, everything you've done is now hitting the
right,
internet.
right.
It is a scary world right now
Yeah,
with technology,
yep,
you know?
yep. Because I'm in New
Yeah.
York City and there's cameras on the corners and up on buildings
Everywhere.
everywhere. And then, as
Yeah.
you just said, now with cell phones, everybody's recording everything.
Yep.
You do the wrong thing, it's instantly out there. It's real
Right.
time.
And the thing is, when you're in public, you can't do anything about that because you're in the
Correct.
public. Anybody can record anything at any time.
Right.
It's only when
Right.
you're inside of a business or inside your
Yep.
public or your private area that it gets dicey. We got to have permission. But
Yeah.
outside there,
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
your free game.
Yeah. You are. It sounds
Yeah.
bad, but it's true.
Yeah.
It's pretty much yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I
So
would
I don't
love
know.
to, yeah, I would love to ask this question to you. Because we're different generations. You're older than me, you know, you're a boomer, I'm Gen X. I would love to have this recorded to know what do you foresee the future? Where do you think this is headed? Yeah, right. It's a
That's
great
a good
question, right?
question. That's a really good question.
Yeah,
Have you ever seen the movie The Terminator?
loved it. And must have been reading my mind because that is exactly what I was going to say.
There
Yeah,
is so much going technology wise, more than we're even aware of, much more than we're aware of, that's
yeah,
going on that is going to take over. It's going to. They have robots that are doing surgery. They have robots that are cleaning houses. Um, God knows even what else. They're in, I walked through the supermarket the other day and there's this robot. It had a base with a thin, I guess, I don't know even what you want to call it. It's like a board. It was like a couple inches thick, a foot wide, and like 6 feet high. And it was going around on an electronic base. Now, what it was doing, I don't know. But it's in a supermarket. I don't know if it's looking for people in aisles, looking for low inventory. I don't know what it's doing, but it's in a supermarket. It's doing stuff that people would normally be doing. And it's only going to get, you look at a fast food, they're taking away people and they're saying
yeah,
order on the kiosk.
yeah,
Now they're even getting to the point where pay through the kiosk. So now they're taking away the cashiers. And
yeah,
it's only a matter of time before they start taking a robot to take the food out of the freezer, drop it in, put it on the grill, put it in the fryer, whatever it's doing. And here it is. It's the
Yeah.
same process every time. You take the hamburger out, it goes on the grill for 30 seconds, it flips for another 30 seconds, take it off, put it on the bun, put some ketchup on. Here it is, you're done.
Yeah. Yep. I can't remember. I don't know. I can't remember which company it was. There was a company that was trialing that to where everything's in these cabinets. You order, you place your order through the app, you walk into the location, you hit your code in, it unlocks it, takes your food out, and you leave.
Hmm.
That's it.
Yeah,
Is
I
that
wouldn't be
really what the
surprised.
world is coming to? Is that what we're headed to? Is
I believe it is. And
no people?
it's a sad state. People will still be around, of course,
Yeah,
but I think more and more things are going to be done by robots.
yeah.
And then what
And what are
happens to the
people going to
people?
do?
Uh,
What are people going to do, right? You have 10 million people without a job. I mean, what are they going to do for a job, right?
I have no
Yeah,
idea.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's
It,
a lot of people that tell you AI is not going to replace people, but it's going to help enhance people. But you and I, we just talked about, we're seeing where it's definitely it's taken over.
it could help people, but in my opinion, and again, I keep saying my opinion, when major corporations start seeing the advantages of AI
Yeah,
and having a robot, you know, you don't have the salary, you don't have sick time, you don't have medical benefits,
they
you don't
never
have
call out.
HR. Yeah,
Yep, yep. They never get sick. They never call out. They're
yeah,
constantly running.
for
And when
cor- from a
when a
yep,
robot can repair a robot, that's when we have to worry,
yes,
just like Terminator.
yep,
You know,
yep, agreed,
yeah,
agreed. And
that's when
I
you
don't
worry.
think, yeah, I don't think it's all that far off if it's not
Yeah,
already here. I really don't think it's all that far off. And it's sad to say, but yeah, that's just what I think. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I believe it's coming.
yeah. I agree. You know, as you look at these cell phones, and I talk about glasses, and you know, what's going to come after the glasses, right? Me personally, I don't think the glasses are going to replace a cell phone. I can't see that in the near future. But you have to look at you're going to be visually impaired with this thing in your eye. So when you're traveling, this is going to be stuck in your face. So what are they going to
Well,
do? Have it blocked when
supposedly,
you're driving and stuff? Right? I mean,
no, no. See, supposedly it's going to be a little spot right in the corner. It's not going to be the full lens. It's a little spot up in the corner
but it's still going to be distracting. Still distracting to a human, you know.
to a certain extent. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
But you know
mean,
what?
people
We'll get
can't
used to it.
drive without a cell phone stuck in their hand now. Imagine driving with glasses on with a corner up in your glasses, you know. In
Yeah,
my opinion.
agreed. Agreed.
Right. So we still have some work to do for all this technology because humans are not
Yeah.
there. We're just
No,
not there.
no,
You
no.
know, you know, I don't know about you, but in my generation, when they talked about where do you see yourself in the year 2000? Oh, flying cars. Could you imagine if we had flying cars today? Oh, man.
Supposedly they have them, but
Yeah.
they're still developing the technology.
Could you imagine the way people drive on the roads, you drive in the sky? No.
See, my okay, and you can laugh at me. And you have, so that's okay. But that's okay. I'm used to it. No, but my fear about flying cars, if you're on the ground and you have an accident, you're on the ground. You're in the air and you have an accident, where are you going? Straight down.
Straight down. I don't think we're there yet, man. Flying cars are not the
No,
way to
no,
go
no,
for
we're not there
humans.
yet. Not even close.
Not even close. We can't get electric cars without killing people yet, much less flying.
Right. Yeah. The electronic cars, the self-driving cars,
Yeah, and
there's still a
autonomous is
long way
not
to
it.
go. There's still a
Oh yeah,
long way to go. But
yeah,
yeah, I think it's coming. I think the
yeah,
future is closer than we think. I really do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so technology has kind of plateaued as much as we know it right now.
Mhm.
We really haven't advanced much over the past, what, 5, 10 years, maybe?
That we know
Uh,
of.
right, that we know of, right, right. Yeah,
Right.
that has been released to us, you know. But yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm
We don't
curious
know.
to see what the future holds.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Adds new meaning to the live for today statement.
That is 1000% correct.
It
Yeah,
does.
living for today. Whew,
It really
that's a
does.
good
You
one.
never know. Never
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Steve, thanks again for another great
Yeah, yeah. Had a
Friday
lot
at
of fun
4,
today.
man.
Had a lot of
Yeah,
fun. It was a little deep topic, but it's something that I think a lot of people are thinking about, looking at, they're reading the same things we're reading, and
yeah,
they need a perspective. And again, this is our perspective. It's not the official, which is a good thing.
yeah,
But yeah, but I love these stuff. These are great.
yeah,
Yeah,
yep. Well, thanks again for coming on the Friday at
yeah.
4 podcast because
It's 4 o'clock somewhere.
4 o'clock somewhere. Love it, man. Steve, thanks again. It's been a
Thanks, Jeff.
great conversation, man. We'll talk
You got it.
soon.
You got
See you,
it.
buddy.
Thanks. Take care.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
sir.
Bye.
You've been watching the Friday at 4 podcast series with your host Charles Luttrell and co-host Steve Kent. Thanks for watching.